Well, what more can be said about Four Gate Whiskey Company that hasn't already been said? Today we're taking a look at, once again, their Kelvin Collaboration, this being Kelvin Collaboration V. How will this stack up versus Kelvin Collaboration IV? And will they continue to evolve the way they have? Only one way to find out. Let's do this. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Like I had mentioned, we're talking Four Gate Whiskey Company, specifically Kelvin Collaboration V. So this, like all of their Kelvin collaborations, just continue to evolve and just one up the next one. The question is 5 gonna beat out 4? Again, they continue to evolve. You hate to say get better, but that's just kind of what they continue to do. And how is 5 gonna stack up to 4? Let's go ahead and dive into today's review. So again, this is the Kelvin Collaboration V. This is coming in at 117 proof. Mash bill on these is going to be a blend of 7 and 8 year, mash bills of 75, 20, and 5, and a 9-year Kentucky 78, 10, 12. It is non-age stated and is coming in at a typical Four Gate Whiskey Company price of $200. So let's go and dive into the video. We'll kind of see how Kelvin Collaboration V really kind of stacks up, really see where this is going to kind of perform or top last year's Kelvin Collaboration 4. Let's take a look at the color on this. So as you can see, this is really kind of a nice burnt orange, maybe a medium copper type of color. Again, one thing I love is as I move the whiskey around the glass on this, I don't know if you can see it or not, but the legs and the oils on this are absolutely fantastic. So, all right, let's go ahead and dive into the nose. Oh boy. All right, where do I start with this? I'm going to say this is a lot like a chocolate covered rum soaked bread of some sort, like a raisin bread that's been soaked in rum with chocolate. It's got a tremendous amount going. I'm going to say so far, it's kind of leading in the rum part of it versus the sherry portion. If I forgot to mention again, these are finished in barrel rum and Australian sherry casks. Oh man, it is nutmeg on this is crazy. You know, we say baking spices a lot, but this is really leaning heavy specifically on the nutmeg side. Beautiful burnt brown sugars. I'll even say a little bit of like a pecan pie, something like that, where you get that richness, that decadence of a pie is a richness, whatever that can be. Little bit of a black pepper there as well. Maybe some tobacco notes. Boy, actually some heavy kind of tobacco notes, maybe combined with a little bit of leather. And more of a rich fruit. And what I'll say is, this reminds me of a fruit that is starting to like ferment. So you get those rich, like sweet sugars from that fruit. So there's something that's very intense, sweet about it. I'm trying to maybe not say so sweet, but it's rich. It's that sweet, like fermenting fruit as it's kind of starting to age a little bit. Really nice, sweet, like rich oak. Again, I reference a lot of times that rick house effect. It's just something that those barrels as they sit in the rick house and the angel share, all of that, it just reminds me of being inside one of those ricks and what it is you're kind of taking in with all the barrels within that rick house. And again, I'll say baking spices, but outside of maybe the black pepper that I was getting, it's fairly heavy on that nutmeg side of things for me. But still leaning more on the rum side of things than it is sherry. We'll see if that kind of shows up a little bit more on the palate. But again, my initial reaction was this chocolate covered, like rum soaked bread of some sort. It is a really intense nose, rich, complex, all of that. So let's see if that translates over to the palate. We'll dive into that now. Cheers, guys. Man, oh man. They just continue to pump out one great Kelvin Collaboration release after another. And this is just another fine example of that. Oftentimes, this for me and others becomes one of their whiskeys that everyone kind of looks forward to every year. They just continue to just evolve beyond the prior batch. And I'll say that so far with this. Again, initially, like I got on the nose, that chocolate covered rum soaked raisin bread, if that makes any sense. It's very rich, complex, all of those notes kind of combined into so far what that is on the palate. I mean, that's just the initial thought or impression right out of the gate. There is a slightly dry oak kind of component to it without it being over oaked. Again, those beautiful brown sugars, heavy vanillas, all kind of fresh tasting is really what it feels like. So each one of those kind of components I'm describing is something that stands out individually on its own, but still combined. All of those are working extremely well with each other so far. There is that pecan pie, that kind of brown butter, burnt brown sugars, maybe like a cane sugar, something along those lines. If you've ever, one thing I'll say is, if you've ever chewed on a piece of sugar cane, that sweetness or that richness that you get from it is very present on this specifically. Again, like I mentioned before, there's that vanilla, but it's more of like a fresh like vanilla bean. If you kind of scrape the inside of a bean and that richness that's there, it's a lot of that. Each one of these components feels like it's there on its own, but then blended and balanced extremely well within what it is they're doing with this overall blend. Maybe even a little bit of a honey, or if you could have like a burnt honey. It's more of a honey oak kind of combination. So you're picking up a little bit of that honey note, but as it lingers on the palate, there's that remaining spice, sweet, rich oak. So there's kind of still that lingering like combo of that honey and nice, sweet, rich oak kind of presence on that. And one thing I'll say about this is you never lose the fact that you've got some really nicely aged bourbons in this. So you never lose the component that it still leads with great bourbons. Between 7, 8, and 9 years, you've got some nice ages on a bourbon that are just now being enhanced by that dark rum and sherry barrels. And it's working extremely well so far together. You know, and here's one thing I always say about Foregate is, and it's probably one of the reasons that I haven't gotten this video out like as soon as they kind of released it, was I always like to allow a little bit of time for their whiskey or these whiskeys themselves to kind of open up, allow some air to kind of hit these things and just see what it is that airtime is going to do for these bourbons. And oftentimes it's your patience is rewarded by what it is that the whiskey kind of has to offer. So again, in my opinion, with Foregate, a lot of these finished whiskeys that they do, you know, obviously have a neck pour, enjoy that for what it is. But as you get into that maybe beyond a month kind of time, it will really reward you. And if you can be somewhat patient and not just kind of plow through these and drink them, you know, as quickly as you'd like, the time will reward you. So again, like I said, if you can wait just a little while and just take your time, you'll be rewarded. And that's what I like to try to do with these, is to give that review of what I think this whiskey is going to be down the road. So maybe not my initial thoughts, but where this whiskey goes a little bit after some airtime. Besides the burnt sugars, molasses, I think you still get like a slight maybe hint of a maple syrup, something along those lines. Again, it's all over the place. All of these notes that I'm kind of getting are all there. It's just trying to decipher what everything is and kind of get through each layer, because that, when you're looking at a whiskey like this, is really what it's all about, trying to pull out all of these different kind of flavor profiles that it has to offer. And it's kind of the fun part of doing this, is really seeing, you know, how and where these whiskeys evolve to. It's one of those things where all of those kind of combined notes just leads back to, you know, is the Kelvin Collaboration V another step up? I don't know if it's another step up, but it is on par with the other batches that they have released. And I don't hesitate one bit to tell anybody, if you're willing to maybe sacrifice a couple other bottle purchases to buy something from Foregate, you know, this for me is probably one that's easy to recommend, because you kind of know what it is you're going to be getting in terms of the value, the quality of the whiskey that you're getting. So, you know, without saying and getting into value wise, again, at $200, you know, I don't know if it's a great value, but what I will say is it's worth buying. And again, at that $200 price point, whatever it is you've got to do, or when, in order to save up or drop $200 on this bottle, just do it. I think it'll be one of those kind of special bottles within your collection that will be nice to kind of either go back to on occasion, share with some friends and family. Again, you know, the Kelvin Collaboration V, they've kind of knocked another one out of the park with this one. So there you have it. So if you were on the fence or wanting to know what the Kelvin Collaboration V kind of tasted like, you know, maybe a month and a half in from the bottle sample being opened, that's kind of what I've gotten on my pour. So again, I don't think you can go wrong with what it is, but again, to each their own. If it's something that you pick up, definitely leave a comment below. In addition to myself, I think others coming back to watch the video appreciate the comments from others who've had the opportunity to try some of these batches. And again, outside of just my opinion, I think it's important for others to hear, you know, your thoughts and opinions on some of these whiskeys as well. So good, bad, indifferent, whatever that may be. So guys, thank you so much for tuning in to another one of my videos. Greatly appreciate it. Again, from Foregate Whiskey Company, this is the Kelvin Collaboration V. If you'd like to follow me, you can on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of those places at My Bourbon Journey. If you'd like to help support the channel and become part of the Mash and Journey Whiskey Club, make sure you check out the link in the description below. And again, with that, remember, it's about the journey and not the destination. Cheers.
Yeah. Tastes like magic.